Hello, hello, my fellow creative weirdos, which I say with love and affection. Welcome. I am so excited that you are here. I'm going to tell you something honestly. This is not the first podcast episode that you will hear, but because of the magic of the past and recordings, this is the first one I'm recording. And so this is actually, to me, my first podcast episode ever. And I'm going to be honest with you all. I'm nervous. So tell me if I did okay. I'm genuinely interested in your feedback about what could be improved here. But gentleness and kindness is always appreciated too. But let me know. All right. Well, today I want to talk to you about something really important that I see a lot of creative people struggling with. And to be honest, I see creative people damaging themselves with this. There's an attitude that a lot of creative people have that you're not big enough yet. You are, you at some magical future moment, you will be big enough to be official, but somehow you are not there yet. Right. And what I want to come here to you with is just from the perspective of a tax professional, tell you that your business has already started according to the IRS. And it's really critically important for you to actually understand the point at which the IRS sees your business as having started so that you can take advantage of the advantages, the benefits that are in the tax code for you to get started, right? It is actually a part of the US tax code to make your first year in business a very tax advantaged year. So missing that year one checkbox on your Schedule C really hurts you. So let's get into the details about why this is true. All right. What I want to do today is I'm going to discuss this economic concept of a break-even point. You may have heard of a break-even point before, or if you haven't, don't worry about it. I certainly hadn't when I was in art school, right? It took me years of going back to school, studying economics, learning tax law, right? To understand that a break-even point actually really clearly illustrates a way that a lot of creative people sort of misclassify themselves, right? You're going to understand what I mean as we jump in. Okay. But the break-even point, the point here really why I'm going to talk about it with you today is to illustrate for you why you are actually doing better than you think. Pretty cool. All right. So a lot of creative people that I see in my tax practice, they believe that they are too small, too unofficial, or that they are not making, quote, enough money, whatever enough is, right? This is a moving target that changes all the time for all of us. But you think you're too small, too unofficial, or not making enough money to file a Schedule C. In other words, to sort of have a, quote, real business. And there is some stuff, like where the income tax law starts and where other parts of the law and taxes and accounting start. These are all slightly different starting points. And so I understand that creates a lot of confusion, but I'm here to clarify for you, at least from the income tax standpoint, when you've started. And here's a hint, you already did. And also, I just really one of the reasons it's really important for me to help you with this is because you get a lot of advantages in the first year that you have your business. And if you aren't taking advantage of them, you're going to miss a big tax savings. You're going to miss a big financial boost that the IRS is trying to give you. So let's get on top of this. Okay, there is some technical stuff. Now, interestingly, when your business starts in terms of your bookkeeping start date, your legal start date, and your income tax start date, these actually could all be different dates. So I understand that that's super confusing. There are some things you may need to do to get your business started, quote, officially, that that have nothing to do with income taxes, right? So here's a few. I'm just going to throw them out. You may have some legal stuff you need to cover. You may want to file a DBA. That is a doing business as. You might want to, to register your name. For example, if you're going to operate under a different name, I'll use myself as an example here. My company is called Sunlight Tax. My name is Hannah Cole. So a DBA could help basically allow me to open a bank account with Sunlight Tax on the bank account so that I can receive a check written out to Sunlight Tax instead of just checks to Hannah Cole, right? You're associating legally the name of your business with your name, right? Your social security number. You may need to do some other stuff. You may need to register with your state to collect sales tax. And there may be some things, your locality may have some specific rules about registering with them, whether it's registering your DBA or if there's a local sales tax, because sales tax does not only happen at the state level, it can happen at the county and municipal level. So there's layers to that. And then there's the issue of the LLC. I will tell you, an LLC can come down the pike. You can set that aside. That is not a day one thing necessarily. So an LLC is something you can do later. But here's the thing about your income taxes. You are already there, right? There is a lot of you are waiting for some official moment where you should start your business. In terms of filing that first Schedule C. Schedule C, for those of you who don't know, is where a sole proprietor, a self-employed person, is going to list their income and expenses, AKA figure out your profit for that business and calculate the tax owed on your business operations when you're self-employed. It's also the place where we calculate self-employment tax. That's actually one of the main roles of the Schedule C. So that's a little aside. But in terms of when you are allowed to file a Schedule C, a lot of people are wrong about it, right? You have this thing in your head that you're supposed to have X amount of profit before you're allowed to do this. And it's not true. So do you want to know when the IRS defines the start of your business? It's pretty interesting and probably not what you think. The IRS says your business starts the moment you advertise. Now think about that for a second. The moment you advertise is long before you ever turn a profit. It might be long before you ever have $1 in the door, right? And notice that those are not the same thing. When you have $1 in the door is not the same moment that you have a profit, okay? And we're going to get into this even more. So a lot of you, I just want to kind of, if you went to business school, what I'm saying may feel really obvious to you, but the whole point of this is that if you went to art school, this may not feel obvious because you simply never got any education in this. I certainly did not. So I think it's really important to clarify, mostly just to let you know how absolutely normal you are. And it's not, this stuff is not happening because you're, quote, bad at business, right? So here's a kind of mind-blowing statement that is so obvious it's going to blow your mind, right? Your business has to exist before it can operate. In other words, you are not going to make a profit. That is not going to be the first thing that happens in your business. It's actually not going to happen probably for a while. And that is not because you're terrible at this stuff. That is because that is normal. That is how all businesses operate. And there is nothing wrong with you, nothing you've messed up. Okay. Just think about it. If you were running any kind of business, a pizzeria, say, you couldn't even earn any money, let alone make a profit until that pizzeria physically existed, right? So what I'm getting at here is you are going to have to spend money before you can ever have dollars coming in the door in a business. And in fact, that is completely normal. That is the normal order of operations for any business. Okay. So think about it. If I'm a pizzeria, I can't be selling pizzas until I've rented a space, right? Like I need a physical location, right? Because pizzas are physical things. So I have to rent a place, right? The day I rent, the day I get the key to that rental, can I sell pizzas then? No, right? I need an oven. I need a baker. I need flour. I need probably a sign, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff that I need to operate that pizzeria. And yeah, I'm going to have to pay for all of it, right? And so all of this stuff has to happen before anybody can walk in the door of that pizzeria and buy a slice, right? So it's super obvious when we sort of go through the steps like that. But the thing is, a lot of you are thinking of this in a backwards fashion, right? You're thinking, oh, I'm terrible at business because I haven't earned a profit yet, or I haven't started yet because I haven't earned a profit yet. The fact is, you start your business way before you ever earn a profit. And that doesn't make you weird. That makes you normal. Okay, so let's just get let's back up just a little bit. I really want to normalize this idea. I want to normalize this idea of you have to spend money in your business before you're ever going to earn any. There's almost no business where this wouldn't be true, right? So I just used a pizzeria. We could talk about, if you're a graphic designer, that's a business that has a pretty low startup cost. And yet even you will be in this situation, right? If you're a graphic designer, you're going to have to put up a website. You're going to have to talk to some people, maybe set up MailChimp or Constant Contact or some way of being in touch with people. You probably, if you're a graphic designer, are going to invest some time and maybe some money into some branding, right? If you're trying to show people how beautifully you can build their brand, you better have a brand yourself, right? So all of these things are necessary components of starting a business, and they will all happen before money's coming in. Okay. Now, the other thing I want to mention here is that not only will it take some time for you to even just be positioned so that you can take money in, but then in fact, the normal order of operations of a business is it will additionally take some time for you to build the assets of the business so that you make more and more money. You actually increase your effectiveness over time. Now think through how normal this is, right? If you're a visual artist or a dancer or really any kind of artist at all, it's going to take you some time to build a reputation, right? A lot of us are very focused on that. Reputation means like the first couple of people have tried working with you or experienced your artwork, your graphic design, your web design, your dances, your music, right? And then they have to tell a friend, right? So like they tell a friend, the friend tells a friend, part of this will be very organic and some of it better be coming from you. We certainly hope, right? You want to be pushing the flywheel on that to help build your reputation, to interact with more people so that more people have great experiences with you and your work so they can go out and, be a testimonial for you, tell the story of working with you to their friends. So it's going to take you some time to grow your reputation, to gather up testimonials, to have a track record, and to build a brand, right? A brand takes time to build too. A brand is not just, as anyone in the design world knows, a brand is not just a logo. It is a mentality. It is an ethic, right? It is a whole sort of way of being and operating as a business in the world. So I just would like to normalize for all of you right now the idea about losses being normal, in fact, being the most normal part of starting a business. If you think about it, you probably ate dinner this week at a restaurant that has not had a profit yet, right? In fact, does that mean that restaurant is not operating a business? No, not at all, right? Of course, it is. I think we even have an inherent understanding that it takes about 2 years on average, I think, for a restaurant to start having a profit, right? And many restaurants, even though they will try, they will never have a profit, right? This happens too. Business is hard. That's another fact. There's, any startup that you've ever read about in the New York Times, most likely at the time it was getting all that press. If you're reading about it in a magazine or a paper, it probably doesn't have a profit yet. It has not turned a profit yet. It's funny, right? It's funny to kind of like flip that idea on its head, that businesses start out with profit, because they don't. That's just the fact. Okay. So here's the point that I want to bring up for you. It is the economic or business idea of a break-even point. So what is a break-even point? A break-even point illustrates this idea that losses come before profit can come, right? A break-even point is a magical moment in a business where you go from having negative expenses, right? You're spending money, you have all these startup expenses, and you make enough money coming in to equal zero. The break-even point is literally when you break even, when your income and expenses equal to zero. So it's kind of a funny idea. But even as I'm saying this, it's probably hitting you how, oh, right, that's normal. Everybody does that, in fact. So it's going to be very normal for me to be spending money on my creative practice, on my design studio, on my entertainment business, before I ever make money. Okay. So the break-even point, I don't really have more to say about it. I want to just bring up the idea with you that this is a concept that, anybody who studies business is going to look at and is going to know is normal. But the thing that I see, and the reason I'm making a podcast episode about this, is because so many of the creative people that I work with have this story in their head that says, like, I'm behind. Everybody else knows more than I do. Everybody's doing better than I am. And the fact is, I'm just here to tell you that's not true. You are doing just fine. And the fact is, you are entitled to go ahead and file that Schedule C, to take deductions for your expenses well before you are making money, well before you are profitable. So what's interesting here is that your Schedule C does not have to have a positive number on it, right? This is another thing you assume. You have to have positive money before you're allowed to file a Schedule C, and that is not true. So again, the IRS says your Schedule C business starts the moment you advertise. Okay. Now, why is it the moment you advertise? Why is that a critical moment in the starting of your business? Well, if you think about that, the moment you advertise is the moment you say, hello world, I'm open for business. Advertising is sort of like swinging your front doors open, right? It's not saying I'm making gobs of money, right? Because nobody knew they could pay you yet. Nobody knew what you had on offer, right? But advertising is saying what you have on offer, is like making it clear, hey, yeah, you can do this. And here's what it costs. Okay. So that's a pretty natural moment of starting in your business. So I want you to shift your attitude. The moment your business starts is not when you start making a profit. It's not the moment you break even. It's way before that. It's the moment you start advertising. Now, some of you even are like, wait, I'm a fine artist. I don't even know what advertising looks like for a fine artist. Well, for many of you, the moment you start advertising is the moment your website goes live. Okay. So for a lot of you, that answers the question. For some of you, you whippersnappers. I've been a professional artist for almost 20 years. So I'm not a total spring chicken anymore. But a lot of you don't even have websites anymore. You might be using TikTok or Instagram to get your message out. That counts. That absolutely counts as your advertising. Okay. If you have like a MailChimp account or Constant Contact or, ConvertKit, something like that, that could count as your moment of advertising. Maybe it is the first time you send out an email blast, announcing what's happening in your studio or that you are putting on a show. Okay. Great. I hope that is helpful for you. So I just want to counsel you that I want you to stop hurting yourself with this attitude that says, like, I'm bad at this, I'm behind. And I want you to just start taking advantage of the tax benefits that are right there in the tax code for you. You are a valid business so long as you have a profit motive. All right. Profit motive is what defines a business according to the IRS. Now, there may be things that define a business legally, there may be things that define a business for sales tax reasons, but when it comes to your income tax, when it comes to the IRS, your profit motive is the one and only factor. Everything leads to that. Okay. It's really important to know that even those of us in the arts are doing a societal good by having our business, that the IRS sees you just like it would see a doctor's office, a mechanic, a hair salon. You are doing a public good when you start a business. And that is why there is a benefit for you in the tax code. You are literally increasing the US GDP as you build your business. And that is the reason that benefits are built into the tax code for you. You buy supplies, that is circulating money in the US economy. You might hire contractors to do certain things for you, whether that is like maybe building a website or doing some branding or copywriting, et cetera, et cetera. You are, and you may eventually become big enough where you hire employees, right? So then you become a job creator, also very important. Not to mention, you are filling a need with your work. You are solving a problem. You are envisioning something new that has never been done before. And really importantly, just to bring this right back to tax dollars, when your business grows, you increase the size of the US tax base. That comes back to the US in the form of your tax dollars. So it really and truly is something good you are doing for the world. You do not have to apologize for existing as an artist in this world. You are doing something wonderful. And for that, you get to file a Schedule C. You get to have a loss in your first year of business, possibly in subsequent years of your business. And you get to take a major tax benefit because of that. How that tax benefit of a loss works is a little bit complicated, and I plan to do a whole podcast episode just on that element. So stay tuned for that. That is coming. But losses are a tax benefit. A loss in your business essentially creates a tax shelter. When you have a loss, so let's say I have $10,000 in startup expenses and studio expenses, paint, supplies, branding, website, in order to get my fine art practice off the ground. So let's just say I had $10,000 in expenses to start, and I didn't even have any income coming in yet, but I have made my website go live. So I've started the business. I am allowed to report all those expenses on my Schedule C in year one. And very critically importantly, you want to check that checkbox on your Schedule C that says, is this your first year in business? Don't miss that box, because it gives you a little, like a golden ticket, like a little gold star. We live in the age of big data, and the IRS uses data like that. If there's a checkbox asking a question like that, you better believe that is factoring into the IRS's algorithm about how it pulls tax returns for audit or decides not to. And while they do not make the algorithm and how it works transparent to tax professionals like myself, because we would game the system, it's pretty clear to me that if they've got that checkbox there, it means there's some special treatment for you for year one. And given how common a loss is in year one of a business, it's obvious to me that that gives you some leeway, right? This is my opinion here. This is not, this is my opinion as a tax professional, but so this gives you leeway, right? It gives you a sort of like, oh, right, this is the year she's probably going to have a loss. So I've got a $10,000 expenses in my year one. Now, let's say I'm supporting myself by waiting tables, or as I actually did, like real me. I worked at the Institute for Contemporary Art, Boston, doing art handling. So let's just say my salary at the ICA in Boston was $40,000 a year for art handling. And I've got this $10,000 over on my Schedule C for my art practice, which is a separate operation. Well, interestingly, instead of paying tax on $40,000 of salary, which is what I would do on a normal year, because I have a profit motive in my painting practice, I am allowed to take that full $10,000 on my Schedule C, and it will become subtracted off of my other income. So instead of paying tax on $40,000, I'm actually going to only pay tax on $30,000. In other words, that $10,000 loss on my Schedule C becomes what is called a tax shelter. This is a legal tax shelter, right? This is not an abusive tax shelter, so long as you have a profit motive. Key and critical point here. You may not do this if you are a hobby. Hobbyists do not get tax breaks like this. We do not subsidize hobbies. Go ahead and have one. They're great, right? But hobbyists are not growing the US GDP the way that businesses are. So you are not treated the same with the same advantages. Okay. So it's really, really important to check that checkbox when it's your first year in business, not to miss it, not to put off filing a Schedule C, even though you don't have lots and lots of income, because it is an understood principle of running a business that it will take a little while for you to actually have a profit. Okay. When you invest in your business, you actually give that business more power to grow, right? If you scrimp and save all the time, you always buy the cheap stuff, it's just going to be harder for you to gain traction with your business. And it is, in fact, well understood by the IRS, for one, that if you make investments into your business, they don't always, it's not a guarantee, but they should come back to you in the form of an ability to make more or better quality work, perhaps faster or cheaper in the future, right? So if I, for example, if I screen print t-shirts, right, I could do screen printing by hand, burn my screens in the sun. I think there's a way to do that. You can tell me if I'm wrong. But if I buy a nice screen printing setup, of which there are many, that I am going to be able to, instead of producing 20 t-shirts a day, I might be able to produce 250, maybe 1,000, right? So an investment is going to really expand my capacity as a business, right? And then I can sell those t-shirts possibly at a lower price, at a higher volume, and my business is going to grow, right? So that's an example of where making a big investment is not just money out the door, it is investment in money coming in the door at a later date. Super important concept. Okay. So I just want you to understand, my vision of the world is one where every creative business flourishes, where every voice, every creative voice is heard. And this is especially true, in my opinion, if you are born or socialized as a woman, if you are from a historically marginalized group, if you are BIPOC, have a disability, or from any other historically marginalized group. I think it's especially important for our voices to be heard and for our businesses to get out there, because you are creating solutions that are not well represented enough. And I want them to be even more represented among the thriving businesses in the US. So I just want you to kind of get around this mindset issue There's a real mindset issue in starting a business. It's really important to know what the rule is. It's really important to know that you are entitled to engage it. And I want you to really throw away that kind of creative stereotype bullshit that gets in the way and holds you back. So I don't want you to just accept a hobbled second-rate version of running a business, that somehow you aren't entitled to do it the way everybody else gets to do it because you're a creative person. No, 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 my friend. Please. You absolutely do get to do it the way that everybody else does. So long as you have a profit motive, so long as you are trying to earn income from this activity, you are entitled to the same tax benefits that your local doctor's office, mechanic's office, startup is entitled to. It is really pervasive, this like poverty mentality in the arts. We are so used to our programs being underfunded. And so we get into this headspace because of who's around us about making do with less, doing it in some sort of shortcut fashion, because we're not used to having all the resources that other businesses get. So this can creep into your own tax return. And I'm just here to tell you, no, let's stop this. You are fully entitled to these benefits. It's really important to know that these benefits are meant to help you make investments in yourself. So do it, make the investment. And I want you to also see this as part of a larger project, which is, I want you as a creative person, especially a socially conscious creative person who is trying to make the world better in some way with your work. I want you to take up space in this world. Your voice matters. And you know what? If the people you see being successful in the world don't look like you, it doesn't mean that you don't belong there. It means yours is the voice that's missing. And that's why it especially needs to be there. All right, I've got some takeaways from you. Let's just review. So just to get to the mindset issue that is underlying this topic, you are not behind. You are just where you should be. You are completely normal and you are not missing anything. You are fully a business so long as you have a profit motive. You are entitled to all the benefits of any US business, and they make a big difference. So please use them. Business is hard, right? So you should get the benefits that every other business is entitled to. My next step, do you have a friend who needs to hear this? I would so deeply appreciate if you would share this episode with them. It also really helps this show get more listeners. If you would take a minute to just rate and review it so that more people see it, that really helps, and I deeply appreciate it. If you want to go a little deeper into these issues of your creative business, I have a free visual guide to your tax deductions that you can download, and you can start taking advantage of all the expenses that are deductible in your business. You'll have more money to invest back into your work so you can have more success and a bigger impact. So if you want to download that free visual deductions guide, you can go to sunlighttax.com/deductions guide. Deductions is plural, sunlighttax.com/deductions guide. Go download that. It is a one-page document. You can download it, print it out. It's in rainbow colors. It's super beautiful, and paste it on your desk right where you do your bookkeeping. So it is there for you. All right, my friends, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for listening.